Chapter 6. Putting it all together. Before we start, I'd just like to congratulate you all on getting this far in the course. You've realised that playing responsibly puts you in the driving seat, puts you in control of the game, so well done. In this chapter, we're going to be putting everything together. Before we do that, however, I'd like to take a close look at the game differential. The Baccarat game differential is the table max limit. It plays an important role in the game, and it's rather unique to the game Baccarat. The purpose of the table differential is to weigh up the value of the banker wages against the player wages, and vice versa. This system helps the casino manage risk by setting limits based on the overall wages, acting as a kind of safety net for the operator. There will still be the minimum and maximum bet per player, of course, but if all the players at the table decided to play max bet on the bank, for example, that would be a liability for the house. So, put simply, let's say the table minimum is 10 and the maximum is 1,000. And the differential is set at 1,000 units of whatever currency. That 1,000 differential relates to the maximum payout per coup. Now, if you're playing alone at the table, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It only starts to get a little bit complicated when other players join the game. If you place your 1,000 on the bank, for example, it means nobody else can place a bet on the bank, because if the bank wins, the payout will hit the maximum 1,000 payout of the table. Likewise, of course, for the player wager. Looking at the same scenario, if your 1,000 is on the player and another customer joins the game and places 1,000 on the player position, the total payout from the casino's perspective is 2,000. That's 1,000 over their max payout. If, on the other hand, they move their bet to the bank, the two bets then cancel each other out, resulting in a zero liability for the house, opening the table up once again for other people to play. Let's try that again with 10,000 max differential. We have 4 players playing 10,000 each, 2 on the bank and 2 on the player. If the player wins, the losing bets on the bank will pay the winning bets on the player, and vice versa, with, once again, zero liability for the house. With zero liability, the table is open for anyone else to join in, betting anything up to 10,000. So, what we have here is 41,000 on the table with a 10,000 differential, but the house liability in this particular scenario is only 1,000. On big games, the differential often leads to some very tactful decisions on who can play and who can't. This can be decided by giving priority to the player with the highest wager on the table, thus eliminating smaller bets from the game, which might seem a little unfair. However, this practice is generally only found in the VIP rooms. So, for a quick recap, the differential is the balance of wagers between player and banker. And it's the responsibility of the dealer to calculate the differential, not the player. The player with the largest wager at the table is often given betting priority. And the differential balancing is much more likely to be found implemented in the VIP rooms. Differentials aren't always in place. Some casinos still offer a maximum per player or per position. Differentials are a useful tool though for casino operations who aren't willing to lose their shirt and possibly even their trousers on those high limit games. Now that you have a basic understanding of how the game works and are familiar with the terminology, let's put it all together by examining a few hands as they would be dealt in a live casino. First, let's examine the shuffle. The shuffle and cut procedures can vary significantly from casino to casino. For cards that are reused, the shimmy shuffle is typically involved, where the cards are laid face down onto the table and thoroughly mixed. After this, they are gathered into one neat block and divided. Here we demonstrate the more common cross shuffle technique using the poker strip. Once all the cards are shuffled into a neat pile, they They are then squared off and passed out to the player to cut. This is then followed by one of two procedures conducted by the dealer. A slug of 1 or 2 decks is cut back from the end of the shoe, similar to the process you might find on blackjack. Or, depending on where you play, the dealer may count back 7 cards, 6 being the maximum number per coup, plus 1 for safety. When the cutting card is exposed mid-coup, in either scenario, indicating the end of the shoe, the dealer will announce last coup and continue that hand as the final one. If the cutting card is exposed as a first card out, then the dealer will announce last coup, discard the cutting card and deal the final coup from the remaining cards. Next, we have the card burning procedure. Here, the dealer will expose the first card and then burn or discard the cards relevant to that card number, plus the initial card. In this case, picture cards count as 10, as does the 10. Bear in mind that card burning is a discretional procedure and not really required at all. Some operators use it and others don't. So, with all that out of the way, we're all ready to go. As previously mentioned, the first card out of the shoe always goes to the player, second to the bank, third to the player, and fourth to the bank. Then, the tableau comes into force. The shoe may begin with a free hand or a dummy coup, but that's something you might need to check depending on where you play. In this hand, the player has a 9 and a 6, giving a player total of 5. The bank has a 6 and a 3 with 2 cards, which means a natural 9. Checking with our tableau, it tells us that if the bank has an 8 or a 9, no more cards are dealt, meaning the bank wins, natural 9. Looking at our next hand, we have 2 for the player and 5 for the bank. Checking our tableau once again for the player hand, and it tells us that a card must be drawn if the player has a 2, and providing that the bank does not have an 8 or 9, which it doesn't. So, card the player, and boom, it receives picture card, which is 0. The tableau for the bank says that if the bank has 5 and gives 0 to the player, no more cards are drawn, meaning the bank wins 5-2. And that's all there is to it. As far as the payouts are concerned, no commission Baccarat pays even money on all winning bets, but you will receive only half of your stake on the banker bet if the bank wins the 6. On commission Baccarat, 5% is deducted from all winning bets on the bank. Winning player bets are paid even money. Right, so that really is it. Not terribly complicated. Playing smart means sticking to the straightforward bets like player and banker, or tie bet if you're feeling particularly adventurous, and to steer clear of those reckless side bets with ridiculous high odds. And if that doesn't get your adrenaline pumping, then you need to think about something that does. Perhaps skydiving. It's much safer, a lot more fun.